UCLA did a standout job getting Bob Chesney to become the next head coach of UCLA. Doing so without the Lane Kiffin-esque drama during this coaching search.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. What we're talking about today, UCLA men's hoops against Washington to start Big Ten play on Wednesday, December 3rd. Then we'll talk about what we expect UCLA on early signing day to look like, who might be some flip potentials. But let's lead off with this. The fact that UCLA, throughout the chaos, came through and got the job done to get their man in Bob Chesney. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, UCLA, while as embarrassing as they looked throughout the year, there was times where we're like, do we trust Martin Jarmond and the coaching search committee to make this happen? Well, by all accounts, it seems like Martin didn't have a lot of input in this coaching search. You could think of Bob Myers. You could think anybody on that coaching search committee for identifying Bob Chesney rather early as their guy, UCLA being willing to let Chesney coach through the championship game and the CFP if needed for James Madison. And yes, if while we're recording this, let's remember, yes, it is not officially official. It's all agreed to. Bob Chesney didn't really mention anything in his press conference that leading up to the Sun Belt Championship game. Didn't really talk about it. But he's like, let's be real. There's something going on without admitting to it. Next year's next year. I'm focusing on today. Pivot that with the fact that you had the Lane Kiffin drama in Ole Miss and LSU. All right. Like UCLA is not dealing with that drama. They found their guy. The guy who I first said Bob Chesney's name truly out in the public was a UCLA guy, Rick Neuheisel, right? And it's like, oh, wait, this guy's a winner. And all of a sudden we all start Googling Chesney and bam, there you go. UCLA was on the right path. There were some worries about Penn State. Penn State's looking at other people entirely. And Chesney is like, why be a fourth man in a Penn State head coaching search where you're UCLA's number one guy? And the Bruins like, come here, be a program builder. This is exactly the type of job that fits Chesney's repertoire, right? You look at, yes, beyond the East Coast to West Coast transition, how he's building up programs. Penn State fired James Franklin because he couldn't win the big game or two or three, or you keep counting on the list of the endless list that James Franklin couldn't fall short. Now, would I have been happy if James Franklin came to UCLA? Yes, it seems like he found a home at Virginia Tech, certainly. But it seems like Chesney fits UCLA and what he's done in his career over and over and over again. Rebuild the D3, rebuild the D2, rebuild an FCS, which is still Division I football. Continue the tradition at James Madison of success. Now in an FBS institution on the verge of a potential CFP appearance for the Dukes. And then you look at Lane Kiffin and Juice Kiffin and all that nonsense with him trying to talk to reporters. Is he a housewife? Is he whatever you're talking? Look at that drama. And while UCLA obviously was never in the running for Lane Kiffin, they could have been if you flip it to the West Coast version of that. There was the thought that UCLA was linked to Jedd Fisch, some early favorites, if you're going by betting odds and stuff, that Jedd Fisch was linked to UCLA. Probably wanted the UCLA job back in 17. Wanted it if UCLA would have given it to him when the Bruins were open after Chip Kelly left. If they had acted sooner, it could have very well been Jedd Fisch's job. Instead, Jedd Fisch bolted for the open Washington job at the time. But the fact that Jedd Fisch, while on a lot less dramatic tone, was linked to UCLA. You have the idea that his wife lives in Arizona. He's coaching in Washington. SoCal could be a better fit than the Pacific Northwest. That could have been a whole drama in its own right? UCLA could have flirted with that, try to get in a bidding war where they might have lost to Washington. Fisch has got something good going on in Seattle. I hate to admit it, but he's got a quarterback going in there for a third year, a program that was stripped of a lot of its potential after Kalen DeBoer had a 2-year, 3-year cycle. I think what was a 2-year cycle, getting them to the CFP title game and then leaving with the cupboard bare. Jedd Fisch is doing a good job there. But if UCLA was going to get in a bidding war, that could have been not Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, LSU ugly, but it could have been a bad look if Jedd Fisch just got UCLA stuck in a bidding war to lose out and make them look bad optically. The Bruins have been in on Chesney. I'm reading from ESPN's Pete Thamel and his report that they flew out and they were talking to Chesney a few weeks ago. Obviously, Rick Neuheisel put that out. I talked about on this podcast about how Chesney became a leading contender. And then as the weeks build, he became more and more of a top contender. And in the crazy carousel that happened from the end of November to December 1st, where there are jobs we didn't realize would be open and they're already getting hired with new potential coaches or are already announcing new guys before UCLA, probably the longest open job on the market right now, hasn't announced anybody until obviously December 1st. Well, it's good that the Bruins took their time, showcased the patience, and did do something stupid. The Bruins, the program, have done some really weird things. Obviously, the leaving of the Rose Bowl potentially, and getting sued by Pasadena and the Rose Bowl. Then you're dealing with, the misappropriating of taxpayer funds through NIL purposes to get tax-free dollars, if that's even going. In FOIA football, that report about how Bruins for Life was messed up with James Washington, how the football players want to get rid of Martin Jarmond, how UCLA's not even leading or letting maybe Jarmond to go with this search potentially, from what I'm reading, right? And then it's like, wait a minute. A lot of people are saying UCLA doesn't have the NIL fit. It's way too academic. They're a joke. It's the worst job in Power 4. Remember, The Athletic posted the article how UCLA is literally a joke from year to generation to year after year to decade after decade. It's a horrible job. Well, you know what Bob Chesney does best? Resurrect programs from the ashes and lead them to newfound success. Or for UCLA's case, look to the past and prove that they've just been making the wrong decision after wrong decision, and they finally have the right thing. And say Bob Chesney doesn't work out. If you're looking at a guy on the market out there who could fit the UCLA motto, who could be, hey, he can embrace the academics, he can embrace the athletics, right? The books and ball. You can continue to be an academic institution and a competitive athletic program in the big sports, in the Olympic sports, in all sports, especially football, and bring out fans that support, whether it's tailgating at the Rose Bowl or reluctantly, like my case would be, at SoFi. Because the time is to donate now. Throughout the chaos, UCLA made the calmest, chillest search out there. That they didn't even get in a true bidding war with Penn State. And while Penn State's job's still open, and until it's officially announced that Bob Chesney's at UCLA, other than reports, yes, there's something crazy that can happen. But for now, UCLA has made this the chillest, smoothest transition, as opposed to what was the clunkiest transition, right? You had UCLA letting Chip Kelly walk, and then abruptly going to Deshaun Foster. So you go from somebody who had zero experience to as much experience as Chesney has. He's younger. Deshaun Foster was younger too, but 16 years of head coaching experience and associate head coaching experience over 16 to 20 years, that's some elite stuff where he has been a proven winner and program builder time and time again. Like, there was so much negativity obviously coming from myself, but a lot of sources. So we have to applaud UCLA for making this the right choice, making this the right way possible. Because they could have gone and said, hey, Chesney, and just assume he goes to Penn State and landed with Sean Lewis. And Sean Lewis, who was in that search, I think could be a quality head coach. But some guys, you could swoop them up a cycle too early, a year or two too early. Chesney, a defensive-minded coach, also has an offensive juggernaut in James Madison, who is near the top 10 in points scored and is dominating defensively and sound on special teams. Where Sean Lewis and San Diego State, they have some highs, they've had some lows. They're not so consistent offensively yet. So I think Lewis needs another couple years at San Diego State and probably wasn't ready to make that leap and make that eye-popping hire that UCLA is ready to make with Chesney. That wouldn't have been the same thing with Lewis. It would have been, okay, it's a good hire, but a C- at best and Lewis will have to impress us. Now, even if Chesney fails, I think this is the right hire. I believe he'll be successful in turning around this program, but there is no drama. They just made it happen. And unless something crazy happens over the next couple of days, UCLA has found their man with all the reports starting with Pete Thamel of ESPN to now. And they didn't let themselves, the AD, get in the way of something that just seems like a perfect fit. Doesn't mean that the East Coast can't mesh with the West Coast. Just look at what is needed and what the guy has done. And that is a match and a perfect puzzle piece that fits together. And hopefully for UCLA, they can put enough pieces together and complete an actual picture. And that is a filled out Rose Bowl, insert football stadium with success, entertainment, something that we can be proud of year after year in the Big Ten or whatever conference we're in for years to come. Next, who are those players that Chesney might have from the high school ranks after early signing day? I'm going to announce some of the verbal commits. I've talked about them before, but some of those guys might be on the verge of flipping as well. We'll tell you next on Locked On UCLA. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week, it's the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. Omaha Steaks, it's the excitement when the box arrives, bigger smiles when everything hits the grill. It's the quality you're hoping for with those incredibly tender steaks, the rich flavor, the meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking even easier. It's that gift that brings people together. You don't need to guess anybody's size. Don't do that. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. An additional $35 off. Use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. Cruising on here in Locked On UCLA. We're talking UCLA commitments. The Bruins have quite a few verbals. They've flipped. They've done an impressive job at getting guys to commit or remain committed or recommit to UCLA football. And the Bob Chesney hire should create a recruiting frenzy. It's just him coaching James Madison through the Sun Belt Championship won't exactly help UCLA through early signing day. So some of these commits who are getting potentially poached by some other schools, getting last-minute official visits in, maybe trying to switch their minds to an SEC school, other Big Ten schools, whatever it might be, the Bruins have to work extra hard to keep these guys together. Right now, UCLA, according to 24/7 Sports, has a top 50 class. Now, it's a far cry from their top 20 class earlier this year for the class of 2026 recruiting football-wise. It's just now, with early signing day upon us, basically the eve of it, the Bruins have a couple of guys that they got to keep an eye on. Carter Gooden, their highest rated recruit, 6'4" defensive lineman out of Massachusetts. He's a guy that committed back in July, was one of their top tier recruits alongside Micah Champ-Smith during the summer flurry of recruits. Gooden is continuing to get some looks. He just went on an official visit to Tennessee over this recent weekend. Now, of course, he saw Tennessee lose to the trending program in the state of Tennessee and Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores, but he did go to Tennessee. Tennessee, if you're going to probably assume between who can get more money from Tennessee football or UCLA football, what's closer to the East Coast, you're going to probably say Tennessee. But if Gooden sees what UCLA clearly needs, some help on the D-line, you bring in a defensive-minded coach, you're like, wait a minute, this is a guy who I could probably thrive under. Is that enough at the last minute without his recruiting prowess and just utilizing a staff that's recruiting and been recruiting without a head coach? Is that enough to keep UCLA's top-rated recruit, Carter Gooden, who could maybe at the last minute flip? We'll see. Then you've got Teray Davis. Davis is a guy that might be choosing between a Wisconsin and a Texas compared to UCLA. Davis has been committed to UCLA since late June of the summer, a 6'1", listed as an athlete. He's getting recruited between Washington, Wisconsin, Texas, went on some visits, including to Washington in late October, Wisconsin in early to mid-October. A two-way standout, right? He could either be a safety, but also maybe be a potential offensive star, right? He's a talented two-sport guy. That's the prognosis by Greg Biggins, who is now, I believe, of Rivals, talking about how, hey, this is a guy that was a two-way star and plays physical game and could be an every down starter at the Power 4 level, which is a guy who UCLA would love to have, considering you see Scooter Jackson leaving in the secondary. If UCLA is going to have a whole slew of changes in the secondary next year, you love to have Teray Davis and his athleticism stick with UCLA as opposed to going to a Big Ten rival or an SEC foe in Texas, right? So that's a potential flip right there. And then for UCLA, you want to make sure Micah Champ-Smith, who has been one of the longest committed guys, his early June commitment that started off the tumbling commits for UCLA, right? Champ-Smith, Micah, who was coming in with offensive line prowess, a little defensive line prowess. He's a guy the Bruins need as a 6'5.5" big-time recruit from the state of Florida to stay with UCLA. From Vero Beach to Westwood, can the Bruins keep this guy in the fold? That's somebody who I hope at the last minute doesn't change his mind. I haven't seen too much about it, but you never know. Guys at the last minute could change their mind. Last year, we saw UCLA lose one of their best lineman commits to Ohio State in the last day, and then the Bruins had to pivot to Lucian Holland, who was once committed to Boise State. So that's where UCLA is trying to keep these guys who are all getting last-minute offers. Now that these coaches have a lot more time to throw it out there, they have more high school tape to work with. If nothing's been signed, they can boost a little NIL offers here and there. Coaches are settled mostly for the vast majority of these crazy openings. Can UCLA hold on to a potential top 50 class? That's what they're trying to hold on to right now. Now with UCLA, they have Anthony Jones, who was back in November as a guy that committed. You have Kenneth Moore, a late November commit of 2024. Travis Robertson back in October. Malachi Soliai Tui, CJ Lavender, a late flip. Logan Hyrule in a June commit. Cooper Jaworski, who is an offensive lineman that kind of led this recommitment phase for UCLA, whether it was late October with some flips or late November. Jaworski was one of those guys that has been like, wait a minute, I want to recommit to the new vision that UCLA has. So right now, UCLA is expected to have 18 commits verbal right now on early signing day. Now, some guys might postpone that decision till later. Some might not even decide to early enroll anyways. But for now, UCLA hovering around top 50, top 45 class, but some of their top 3 or 4 guys currently are presently getting recruited and potentially flip targets for UCLA. Look for Gooden, look for Smith, and look for Davis. That might change their minds come early signing day as of this recording. So if you're watching this like, oh, they already signed with UCLA or they've already flipped as of this recording, right here, there has been no official flips as of the moment as I'm recording this right now. But the Bruins have done a fantastic job keeping the recruiting together. Just keep an eye on those guys. Next, we're talking UCLA, Washington men's basketball, because Big Ten plays upon us and the Bruins desperately need a win over a Power 4 foe. Otherwise, they're going to be trending in the wrong direction come March. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. With 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch and finally gives that advantage, the real advantage, back to fans when it comes to snagging the seats. With Gametime, track price drops in real time and get alerts with great seats open and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. Puts the power back into your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Pull up the app. The layout makes it super simple to scroll through the matchups and compare seat views. There's alerts for teams and matches that make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop so you don't miss out. And there's a seat view feature so you know literally what the pitch is going to look like from your exact seats before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and World Cup tickets with every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game time. All right, UCLA men's hoops, man, they're in the midst of some uninspiring play, is probably the best way to put it. Injuries, of course, have plagued the Bruins. Donovan Dent clearly not there. Tyler Bilodeau missing the Cal game. The Bruins were vulnerable. Cal hit a bunch of threes, and UCLA did not play better for it. Now UCLA comes in 5-2 against a 5-2 Washington team. Both teams have a great chance to snag an early victory and start 1-0 in Big Ten play. UCLA, with an Oregon team that's somewhat hurting in their own right, has an intriguing chance, just like last year, to go 2-0 in Big Ten play to start. Last year it was okay, we expect to beat Washington, but the Oregon game was the marquee victory that put the Bruins on the map near the top 25. This year, I don't think the Washington game or the Oregon game are better, other than just claiming you can get wins over power conference teams and get a leg up on other Big Ten teams in the standings, right? Some teams got to play Purdue twice. Somebody's got to play Michigan twice or Michigan State twice, home and on the road. UCLA only has one crack at those teams, but you can go stack some wins against a Washington team that has been struggling with injuries, right? You haven't seen games played by Des Claude. Heinz Steinbach is a guy that's been hurt as well. Washington has seen some guys in and out of the lineup that could cause havoc, wreak havoc for Washington and against UCLA in the front court, or even Des Claude, if he's feeling good, can go put up a 20 or 15-point night. And there's still Wesley Yates III, who is Washington's leading scorer, 33% from three, about 17 points per game. The Huskies have 5 separate guys who can average 12 or more. The problem is those guys haven't all played in the same lineup together or started together. That's the issue plaguing Danny Sprinkle in this lineup on this team heading into this Big Ten opener for Washington. As a team, the Huskies shoot 35% from three. They've hit 50 of 143 chances. They're a team that played in a crazy game against Southern in double overtime, and that wasn't even the craziest game we've seen this year in the same week. What was that, last week, 2 weeks ago? When that was like the 5th most exciting game, when normally that's the most exciting game of the week. It wasn't even the most exciting game of the day when Washington beat Southern just the other day. So I think the one thing that UCLA has to deal with here, after a poor defensive showing against Cal, where the Golden Bears hit a bunch of threes, Washington's closer to the hundreds in three-point shooting percentage. Cal, after the win versus UCLA after Thanksgiving break, they are in the top 50 at three-point shooting. So the Bruins don't want to make a middle-of-the-pack three-point shooting team into a top 50 team in Washington who could thrive on a late-night game. It's an 8 p.m. West Coast tip in Seattle. You're going to spend all day in the cold, dreary weather of the Pacific Northwest with a potentially rowdy crowd for Washington. It's their Big Ten opener. Students are still going to be there. It's not going to be a sleepy January game that you can get away with a win or two. This is a team that, just like last year, UCLA had to go to Seattle without Tyler Bilodeau. Unsure if Bilodeau will play. I think Ben Bolch put out of the LA Times that Donovan Dent is expected to play. Bilodeau is day-to-day. So the Bruins are still going to be without their starting four, who, if Des Claude is healthy, is going to guard him. Is that an Eric Daly Jr. matchup? Is that somebody else? Do we see Jamar Brown come in and play some hustle defense? Or are the Bruins going to have to guard much taller guys? The backcourt for UCLA has to step up. And that's just more than Donovan Dent. Will we see consistent play from Trent Perry? Will it be Sky Clark staying out of foul trouble, allowing UCLA's starting guards to play together and play off of each other against Washington? That's something I want to see more consistently. Now, if Trent Perry grows and takes a role from one of the starting guards, a 1-2, or forces Cronin to send Daly back down to the 4, and the Bruins go small, I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. If UCLA has to have their hand forced because of Trent Perry, well, good. He's playing well. He's playing good defensively. But the defensive mismatch is, if there's a full, healthy Washington team, they could do some damage in the front court to UCLA. At the moment, it looks like a battle of the backcourts. Which guards are going to play better? Who can guard a 6'6" Des Claude and make sure that, hey, he doesn't go off? Because he has potential to be lethal, lethal from the floor. The one-time USC kid, the senior guard who comes in and could cause some trouble. In his first game, he put up 20 points in a double OT game against against Southern, right? So what UCLA needs to do is not let this Washington team look like a standout three-point shooting team. Kwamari Peterson is a guy that's hit a couple of early threes for Washington in the first 7 games. Don't want him to go off as a random dude for the Huskies that just torches you from deep. It's really, can UCLA rotate over and not get beat by by the three? If they do, it'll be another embarrassing performance for UCLA in the defensive end. I think Cronin has gotten his claws into this team. It'll be over a week by the time they take the floor, and we'll know if UCLA is a team that doesn't want to get messed with early on in Big Ten play. If they come out flat and Dent looks a bit healthier and Bilodeau plays, there will be growing concern. But for now, we'll love to see guys step it up defensively and UCLA's backcourt rule the day against the Huskies. And hey, despite all the early flubs, UCLA still has a chance to start off Big Ten play undefeated, potentially even 2-0. That's not what a lot of teams can say in power conference play. And the Bruins have a chance to get momentum trending in the right direction prior to their Gonzaga tilt in Seattle on December 13th. And with that, we're going to have a hands up, Bruins fans. It's early signing day, so stick with us. Wait till it's Bob Chesney to UCLA and we get some official quotes and everything when he's officially announced as the head coach. Stick with us and Locked On UCLA. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.